Instead of giving my final verdict at the end of the video, I decided to do it at the beginning. Here is my whole thought process after reading Attack on Titan chapter 139. When I first read it, I moderately enjoyed it, but as I kept reading again and again, my enjoyment of the chapter decreased again and again, until it finally plateaued to where it is now, where I am incredibly indifferent about it. Now I'll be giving my explanation on what I liked and disliked about the chapter based on my initial reaction to it. The reason this video took a while is because I didn't want to make a video out of strict emotion, so I decided to jerk one out and clear my mind before I said anything drastic. Also, this is probably going to be one of my last Attack on Titan videos ever, so if you subscribe for AOT videos only, please unsubscribe. The next video is going to be on Chainsaw Man. Levi's ending was actually really rad. It was easily my favorite part of the chapter. It was an interesting decision by Isayama to not make Levi feel anything when he chopped off Zeke's head, even though he swore revenge on him for decimating his entire squad. And in this chapter, his arc was concluded really beautifully in a moment between him and his fallen comrades. His face, not so beautiful, but it's really cool in my opinion. Nice. This is definitely a controversial opinion, because a lot of people have said that Eren's character has been massacred in a devastating fashion, but I actually really like this ending for Eren. I think we all drastically overestimated Eren's character due to his insane shift from a cowardly cuck to a full-blown Chad. However, deep in his heart, he's a puss just like the rest of us. Literally, the last video I made was disproven in a disgusting, brutalized fashion by one panel of Eren being a complete soy boy for Mikasa, but I actually kind of really like this panel. Think about it like this. In the moment that Eren kissed Historia's hand, he understood everything, and from his words, everything became jumbled up. He experienced the future, the past, the present all at once, and obviously that's gonna mess anyone up, especially a 16-year-old soy boy, right? So I get it, it's a bit of a twist that a lot of people ended up not liking, but personally I thought it ended up working pretty well and recontextualized some of the things that have been said in the past. His character shift from cuck to Chad to cuck is pretty cool, and even though he's not the absolute stoic demon god that we all thought he was, I don't think it necessarily breaks his character. His story kind of reminds me of a Greek tragedy. He watched his future self commit genocide, became horrified, then grew more numb and numb as he realized that this is who he always was and always would be. How could that not traumatize someone? And it's also really ironic in a good way that the one person that sought for freedom the most was the biggest slave to their fate after all. And the small exchange between Kenny and Uri at the beginning of the show seems to come back and say once again, we're all slaves to something. And come on, this series does not have room for 3 stoic Chads. There's only room for 2, Erwin and Floch. Eren could never live up to their legacies, ever. I also noticed people on Reddit criticize the fact that he said to Rainer, "Why did my mother have to die?" as if he was blaming Rainer, which makes no sense, because in that scene with Rainer, Eren literally said, "I guess you guys had no choice," meaning that he wasn't blaming Rainer and that he had accepted it was fate that caused his mom's death. This is a scene that doesn't get talked about, but I really liked. It's a scene after the Titan powers have poofed away and the Marley boys decided to draw their guns on the ELDIA'S. The Marley leader is scared and whatever and ready to shoot until Armin comes in and sets him straight about the world. This scene is obviously a nod to when Eren first transformed in the Trost district and every member of the garrison was scared shitless and was ready to shoot at the command of Kitz Whalman, who is apparently still alive. And Armin tried to set him straight, but still got shot at anyways. This scene is pretty cool. It kind of reminds me that even though so many things has happened, not much has really changed. The hate in the world still exists. It also talks about human nature and antagonizing what we don't understand or perceive to be true, and rejecting things that we deem abnormal, and staying ignorant in the presence of new information. In the 3-year time skip since the ending of the Rumbling, Eren is regarded as a hero in his homeland. The YMIR'S flag dominates paradise, the military's embroidery proudly shows the symbol of their savior, and that nation is led by Historia. I don't see a lot of people talk about this, but the concept of war is never really over, even after Eren's mass genocide, and is still prevalent in the future of the Attack on Titan universe. Even though Titan powers don't exist anymore, people will still find a way to fight each other, and the turmoil in the series is still not over. I find it really cool that Historia was actually Team Eren all along, even though her character was sidelined harder than Dion Waiters after he goes over 30, and it's really disappointing to see that she had absolutely nothing to do with the finale of the series, but her allegiance to the Jaegerists, even though Eren himself had betrayed the Jaeger's philosophy, was really interesting to see. And remember, his story is straight up said that unless one side or the other is wiped out, war will never end. A lot of meaning for her character can be attributed from those lines. Rainer Braun is easily one of the best written characters in this whole series. I really enjoyed what he brought to the table along with that 5-head brain of his. And that scene when Eren said we're the same to him, I think that scene is truly one of the best parts of the whole series for me, because of what Eren would become later on in the series. But the last we see of this absolutely insane character is him sniffing a note. In the final chapter, he had two notable moments. One that is pretty okay, and the other one I was just like, why? The first moment is him reuniting with his mother and being confused about why she's happy that he lost all his Titan powers. Deep down, Rainer's pursuit of validation among his peers and family and society was deeply rooted in his status as an honorary Marley citizen, and that's why he wanted to become the Armored Titan, so that he could be seen as a hero to his people. He didn't want to kill people, he didn't want to be a part of the wars, he just wanted people to like him, and the only way he saw was through ranking up in society. So when his mom hugged him for not having the power of the Titans anymore, he was confused at first because he was accepted for the first time without his status. The only other panel we see of him is him sniffing a note. Not even a reunion with his Marley comrades. One of the most complex and well-written characters in the entire series is treated as a joke. Can you hear me shaking my head? This is one of the many examples of a lot of plot points and characters just not getting any mention in the final chapter because the ending was extremely rushed. I don't know why it was rushed, but some people have speculated that the author wanted to end it in chapter 139 because it represents the 13 years that a Titan shifter can be a shifter and the 9 different Titan powers that exist. I hope that isn't the case, as sacrificing the pacing of a story for some cheap number representation is kinda dumb, but then again, the pacing has always been an issue for AOT, it's just this being the worst and most prominent case of it. And this is one of the cases where adding a few chapters to flesh out the ending would have made much more sense. I was very confused by this decision. You may think that this is just one of those other things that was left unexplained in the chapter due to it being rushed, but WORM-KUN deserves his own lore, build-up, as well as backstory as much as any other character in the series. However, from what I picked up, it's pretty much the hallucigenia that appeared when Ymir fell into the well. Now, even though I'm upset that Isayama didn't give an explanation to this absolutely brilliant character, for now I can cope with the fanfictions out there. I even mentioned this in the video that I talked about the last chapter. Killing characters off just to bring them back in general is just really cheesy and very shallow writing. Remember that one episode of The Walking Dead where Glenn died, but later we found out he didn't actually die? The camera just panned out so it looked like he died, but he was actually alive, and then after that he died anyways? For any aspiring writers, do not do that. That is stupid. Killing off Gabby, Jean, and Connie was a very bold decision to make from the author's part, and I was learning to cope with it because they were really good characters. I applauded Isayama for this bold decision, but guess what? They're alive! Yes! No, this is horrible. This was so unnecessarily cheap that it actually hurts me as an enjoyer of stories. I hate when writers do this because it shocks the audience without any real consequence or any real weight behind it. The climax of Berserk's Eclipse was incredibly tremendously shocking, but it also had the emotional weight that carried on for months and years after reading it, and that's what made that shocking climax so good. No one will ever talk about the one time Jean, Connie, and Gabby died and then got brought back to life because it's empty and shallow storytelling. And you may be saying, oh dude, Eren died at the beginning dude and then he came back alive. That was a bit different because we learned a lot of things about the Titan power. Eren's death was a sacrifice which turned him into a Titan and also showed the existence of Titan shifters, but this one is just dumb. The biggest lingering question in the whole arc up until the final chapter's release has been the purpose of Ymir. Why is she doing this? What is she doing? And those questions are still yet to be answered. Apparently, from what I read, it seems as if Ymir entrusted Mikasa to show her the way in freeing the Eldian race from the power of the Titans. And wait, it gets worse. The reason Ymir couldn't do that herself is because she is a slave. Understandable, but why is she a slave? The reason she's a slave is because she's in love with Karl Fritz. What? I get what is trying to be said here. They're trying to find a parallel between Mikasa's love for Eren and Ymir's love for Fritz, and how when Mikasa kills Eren and lets him go, Ymir also understands to let go of her love for Fritz. But damn, this is stupid. The concept of Ymir being in love with someone that abused and forced her to breed children with, and didn't show any emotional resentment towards it, is stupid in and of itself. But people have tried to justify it by saying it's Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological response that occurs when hostages or abuse victims bond with their captors or abusers. One thing I have to say to that is that Stockholm Syndrome is not real love. I'm no doctor, but justifying this reasoning with a mental illness caused by abuse is not a very strong or a logical one. I would understand it if there is a scene of Ymir and Fritz having any positive interaction, but there is absolutely none in this whole series, and even then, I would still think it's a stupid reason. I think the reason they went this route is because they were trying to force a connection between Mikasa and Ymir to make Mikasa more important to the story, but the fundamental reasoning behind Ymir's intentions in slavery is just so stupid I can't even. I feel like forcing a parallel between these characters to make someone seem more important is incredibly dangerous, and in this situation flopped hella hard. It seems as if what has been accomplished so far has no merit because the reasoning behind it is so stupid. And there wasn't even a cohesive answer as to why she felt that way. Eren even said he couldn't look any deeper into the founder Ymir's heart, which unironically states that even the author realized how stupid this was. I felt this connection between Ymir and Mikasa is extremely forced and retconned a lot of the events in the previous chapters. It felt like an afterthought, to be honest with you, and honestly, if you left this forced panel out and developed both of these characters independently, nobody would have complained. Mikasa's arc of accepting Eren's demise as she killed him doesn't all of a sudden become super woke and elevated if you add Ymir to the mix. Hey Armin, I killed my mom. Oh, that's cool, Eren. So why did you say all those mean things to Mikasa? Armin, you don't understand. I killed 80% of the population. No, Eren, I need to know now why you treated Mikasa and I like garbage. I thought we were friends. So it turns out that Eren killed his mom. Moving on. So it turns out that it was indeed Eren that led Dina to his mother in order to save Bertolt, because he wasn't supposed to die yet. The problem I have with this isn't the reveal itself, but the way it was brushed over so quickly. There was literally only one page spent on this vital reveal, and it was immediately brushed off the page after in order to talk about their feelings. Actually, the whole killing of 80% of the population part was also brushed off really quickly. And then there's this line. Eren, thank you. You became a mass murderer for our sake. I promise I won't let this era go to waste. It feels like Armin doesn't care at all about Eren's crimes, even though in the whole arc, he's built a whole alliance to defeat him. A lot of the dialogue in general makes this seemingly tragic and horrifying ending just seem like a goofy finale to a sitcom or something. It's really weird. A part of this may be due to a translation error by the English department. Translating Japanese to English is incredibly difficult, and a lot of things may get lost in translation. And there have been a few instances where things have been translated in a very different way than what was intended for the Japanese audience. And speaking of that, there's also a lot of rumors going around on who really wrote the final chapter of Attack on Titan. Whether Isayama was influenced or forced by his editorial staff to change things, and frankly this is a very interesting topic. We don't really know what is going on inside of the creation of many mangas, and there has been situations of abuse as well as mangas deviating from their original purpose in order to fit the quotas of a studio. Some of the things in the final chapter felt really forced and really random, and that may be due to the editorial staff not liking the original ending and forcing some type of change in that process. Overall, I found the ending to be a bit disappointing and really mediocre. However, at the end of the day, this is the product that was released, and even though there is a lot of glaring problems with the potential retconning and overall pacing issues, as well as some unresolved character dilemmas, I still respect the ending for what it is and what it tries to accomplish. I have yet to revisit the entire manga with the current context that I have, and will do so in the future to really flesh out my opinion on the whole series, but this botched ending doesn't really change for me, at least, the fact that this series is easily one of the greatest that I've ever read and is one of my personal favorites of all time, because at its peak, it is absolutely insane. What a journey it's been. My journey started 8 years ago, like many of you, when the anime first came out. It traumatized me, it lifted me up, it abused me, but this anime will forever be ingrained in my heart as one of my favorites of all time, and I know a lot of people will feel that way, regardless of how they thought about the ending. So thank you, Isayama, for creating such an influential and interesting story that has been enjoyed by millions around the world. And thank you, the people, for letting me milk the series for a few dollars in the last couple months. Most of you guys will probably never watch this channel again, and that's fine. I enjoyed my time with the community, and regardless of if I have a YouTube career in the next few months, I am very grateful to have been a part of this community, because there's absolutely no way we'll ever see something like this ever again.